Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasura Nandana Jana Ranjana Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Oh, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Sri Radha Madhava ki, Sri Radha Giridhari ki, Sri Radha Damodara ki. Jayo Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Chacha Shuddha Shri Srimad His Divine Grace of Bhai Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Bhubari Ki Jai. Jayo Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Chacha Shuddha Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Bhubari Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Shri Govardhana Puja Maha Maha Mahotsava Ki. Gaura Premanandi, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, assembled devotees, all glories, Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. So this morning we'll be reading about the glories of Govardhana and the festival of Govardhana Puja. Is it a little warm in here or is it just me?
Just you.
Thank you. Okay, is everyone's comfortable? No one's going to fall asleep? Except me? Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is the 10th canto, chapter 21, text 18. These are verses sung by the gopis. And in one commentary, one of the acharyas says this verse was spoken personally by Srimati Radharani. She is the topmost devotee, but she's glorifying Govardhana as the topmost devotee, because that's just how devotees are. They have to glorify other devotees. They don't think of themselves to be very special or exalted. Handaya Madhira Bala Haridasa Varyo Yad Rama Krishna Charanas Parasa Pramodaha Manam Tonoti Sahago Ganayostaryoryat Paniyam Suvasa Kandara Kandamulai Handaya Madhira Bala Haridasa Varyo Yad Rama Krishna Charanas Parasa Pramodaha Manam Tonoti Sahago Ganayostaryoryat Paniya Suvasa Kandara Kandamulahai. Anyone like to chant? Yes,
Usually we have a word-for-word warm-up, but Antaya Madhira Balaya Haridasya Varyo
Handaya Madhira Bala Haridasa Varyo
Yad Rama Krishna Charanas Parashas Pramoda
Yad Rama Krishna Charanas Parashas Pramoda
Manam Tanoti Sahago Ganayostayoryat
Manam Tanoti Sahago Ganayostayoryat
Pani Yasuya Vasakandara Kandamulai
Pani Yasuya Vasakandara Kandamulai
Antaya Madhira Bala Haridasa Varyo
Andaya Madhira Balaya Sarasyo
Yad Rama Krishna Charanas Parasha Pramoda
Yad Rama Krishna Charanas Parashas
Sahagoganayostayoryat.
Manam tanoti sahagoganayostayoryat.
Ani Yasuya Vasakam Dadakandamulai.
Ani Yasuya Vasakam Dadakandamulai. Antaya Mandira Balaharidasayo.
Yadrama Krishna Charanas Parashat Pramodaha.
Yadrama Krishna Charanas Parashat Pramoda.
Manam Tanoti Sahagoganayostayoryat.
Manam Tanoti Sahagoganayostayoryat.
Ani Yasuya Vasakam Dadakandamulai.
Ani Yasuya Vasakam Dadakandamulai.
Handaya Mandira Balaharidasavaryo.
Yadrama Krishna Charanas Parashat Pramoda. Manam tanoti sahagoganayostayoryat. Ani Yasuya Vasakam Dadakandamulai.
Word for word. Hanta. Oh, ayam. This. Adrihi. Hill. Abalaha. O friends. Haridasavarya. O best among the servants of the Lord. Yet, because Ramakrishna Charana, of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and Balaram, Sparasa, by the touch, Pramodaha, jubilant, Manam, respect, Tanoti, offers, Saha, with, Go Ganayoho, the cows, calves, and cowherd boys. Tayoho, to them Sri Krishna and Balaram. Yet, because, Paniya, with drinking water, Suyavasa, very soft grass, Kandara, caves, Kandamulahai, and edible roots. Translation. Of all the devotees, this Govardhana hill is the best. O friends, this hill supplies Krishna and Balaram along with their calves, cows, and cowherd friends with all kinds of necessities, water for drinking, very soft grass, caves, fruits, flowers, and vegetables. In this way, the hill offers respects to the Lord. Being touched by the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram, Govardhana hill appears very jubilant. Please repeat. Of all the devotees, this Govardhana hill is the best. O friends, this hill supplies Krishna and Balaram, along with their calves, cows, and cowherd friends, with all kinds of necessities, water for drinking, very soft grass, caves, fruits, flowers, and vegetables. In this way, the hill offers respects to the Lord. Being touched by the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram, Govardhana hill appears very jubilant. Excuse me. Purport. This translation is quoted from Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, 1834. Srila Vishnudas Chakravarti explains the opulence of Govardhana hill as follows. Paniya refers to the fragrant cool water from the Govardhana waterfalls, which Krishna and Balaram drink and use to wash their feet and mouths. Govardhana also offers other beverages such as honey, mango juice, and pilu juice. Suyavasa indicates the durva grass used to make the religious offering of argyam. Govardhana also has grass that is fragrant, soft, and conducive to strong growth of cows and increased production of milk. Thus, this grass is used for feeding the transcendental herds. Kandara refers to caves where Krishna, Balaram, and their friends play, sit, and lie down. These caves give pleasure when the weather is too hot or too cold, or when it is raining. Govardhana Hill also features soft roots for eating, jewels for ornamenting the body, flat places for sitting, and lamps and mirrors in the form of smooth stones, glistening water, and other natural substances. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshul Unminitam Dena Taismai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Dena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svabadandikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shiva Sri Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Banchakapatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So with your kind thoughts, words, and blessings, I'll try to say a few things. We're going to read a few selections and also read the chapter in the Krishna book about Krishna lifting Govardhana Hill. Now in this particular verse, the Hari Vasadarya, Haridasa Varya, the best or the topmost of all the devotees. And this I have here is some excerpts from various commentaries on this verse by the great acharyas, expanding on how it is that Govardhan is the Haridasa Varya. So the first commentary is from Srila Sridhar Swami in his Bhavarta Deepika. He says, this verse beginning with the exclamation, Hanta. Hanta means, oh. Like that. So you see some nice prasadam, you go, Hanta. Whoa, very nice, Hanta. Like that. It's spoken in a joyous mood. The gopi said, oh friends, this motionless hill, known as Govardhana, is Haridasa Varya, the topmost amongst all the devotees of Krishna. How is it so? Not going anywhere. You know, just like if Balaram just sat in his room all day long. So he's not doing it, he's just sitting in his room. Right? So Govardhana is just standing there. Because he jubilantly attained the touch of Balaram and Krishna's feet. By sprouting of grass, etc., he shows goosebumps. Furthermore, he expresses his respect for both Krishna and Balaram along with a host of cows and gopis. How does he do that? By providing appropriate drinking water, soft grass, edible roots, etc. Therefore, he is extremely fortunate. And this is from the commentary by Sri Vamshidhar. The gopis, the great devotees of the Lord, made this statement, the word kim cha, furthermore, in Srila Sridhar Swami's commentary, is to explain that even though Govardhana experiences so much joy, he is never careless in his service. Right? So his ecstasy doesn't get in the way. The definition of the term kandara, cave, is given as Kam jalam driyate ebi iti kandaraha. The stones that divide the flow of water into two parts are known as kandara. This refers to caves that open on both sides of the mountain. Govardhana offers service by providing such caves. Since this hill gives so much respect to Krishna and Balaram, therefore it is a great devotee. Usually people attain good fortune even without the proximity of Krishna, simply by chanting etc. of his holy names. But this hill serves Krishna and Balaram in direct contact with them, therefore it is most fortunate. From the commentary by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the gopis say, how amazing it is, O dear friends, one's desires are never fulfilled unless one takes shelter of great personalities. That's an interesting, informative statement, isn't it? One's desires are never fulfilled unless one takes shelter of great personalities. Obviously, the devotees of Lord Hari are the only ones worthy of being called great, and the greatest and most important among them is Govardhana, the king of mountains. We have heard this from the mouth of Garga Rishi, the daughter of Garga. Therefore today, having taken a bath at Manasi Ganga, we will go to obtain darshan of the presiding deity of Govardhana, who is Narayan under the name of Sri Haridev. Since we are going for darshan, our elders will have no objection. However, Krishna will also be playing there. This is the gopis speaking. The gopis decided in this way, and thus, desirous of meeting their beloved, they exclusively glorified Sri Govardhana, the wish fulfiller of Krishna, along with friends and associates. They glorified him through this verse for getting their own desire fulfilled. Did you catch that? So they're saying your desire is only fulfilled by taking shelter of great personalities. So what was their desire? To go see Krishna. They're like, get out of the house and go. So they're glorifying Govardhana in hopes that by glorifying such a great personality, their wish to see Krishna would be fulfilled. So that's his commentary on this. He caught that. The term hanta is used here in a sense of amazement. Among all the servants of Lord Hari, such as Narada, there are 3 Haridasas. There's 3 of them. Primary servants, Yudhisthira, Uddhava, and Govardhana. Among these 3, Govardhana is Haridasavarya, the topmost servant of Krishna. So, where are these 3 mentioned as being Haridas? The Bhagavatam says regarding Yudhisthira, Haridasasya Rajarshe Rajasuya Mahodhayam. All the priests glorified the Rajasuya sacrifice performed by the Haridas, named Yudhisthira. Regarding Uddhava, the Srimad Bhagavatam says, Krishna smasarayam remi haridasa vrajauksham. The Haridas named Uddhava took pleasure in reminding others of Krishna. Regarding Govardhana, the current verse says that he is Haridasa Varya. In this way, all 3 have been addressed as Haridas, and Govardhana is the topmost among them. There is another place in this book where it describes it goes from Yudhisthira to Uddhava to Haridas and why. But Jiva Goswami in his commentary says, by the word ayam, this, it is indicated that at the time of speaking this verse, the gopis were situated near Govardhana, pointing to the hill with their fingers. Hanta, hanta, right? Govardhana's worshipable Lord is Hari. He who expertly snatches away, Harati, the unlimited distress found in the material world. The gopis point out by giving various examples of how amongst all the Lord's servants, Govardhana is the topmost. Govardhana displays exceptional happiness. That's one way you can tell an exalted devotee. They're always very, very happy. Horripulations, perspirations, joyous tears, etc. by symptoms such as sprouting grass, dewdrops, tiny streams of water, etc. The word tanoti indicates that Govardhana expresses all the sorts of respects that can be offered by any other living entity, but in a greater degree. The word paniya indicates drinks such as cooling water, honey, etc. The word suya vasa contains the prolonged U instead of the original short U. This is a poetic license which has been accepted here for the purpose of maintaining the meter. The original word indicates grass that is soft and which produces nourishing milk in the cows, or else paniya, suya, vasa can mean waterfalls where water falls. In some Bhagavatam editions, instead of suya vasa, we find bhuya vasa, meaning exquisite places to sit and rest. The word khandara indicates caves, especially the ones in Govardhana that provide beautiful jewel-studded seats for resting. The jewels also act as beautiful mirrors. In this way, suitable respect is shown to everyone, including Krishna. O gopis, such respect in all regards cannot be shown by you, all due to a lack of abilities, and this is a great misfortune. This mood is conveyed by the other commentaries. So they're speaking very humbly of themselves. Moreover, just as living beings try to hide their emotions, ultimately express it through their eyes, similarly, Govardhana tries to hide his emotions, but they get expressed through the stone outcroppings, areas where the stone structure of the hill is directly exposed, uncovered by soil and grass. So I guess when you see pictures of Govardhana, you see those. That's what's going on. He just can't stop expressing his ecstasy. Okay. Sanatana Goswami says, through this verse the gopis are saying, what to speak of the fortune of the aborigine girls who can follow Krishna everywhere. Even this immovable Govardhana is supremely fortunate. Sri Vijayadwajatirtha says, Hanti denotes surprise. The Govardhana hill is the topmost of all devotees. Why so? Is because this hill, which experiences great joy in receiving the touch of Lord Krishna, the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram, shows great respect both to Krishna and Balaram and the cows in varieties of ways. Let me see if there's anything different being said here. Okay. Okay, so we're going to read the Krishna book story, and then we're going to come back to an article on all the different ways Giriraj serves Krishna, and also there's some reflections on this pastime from different devotees in our movement. Something like that. Srila Prabhupada's Krishna book, Ki Jai. So let's go right to. So the first chapter is 24, and that's the whole conversation between Nanda Maharaj and Krishna and the decision to perform the Govardhana Puja. And so Krishna did it. He convinced them very easily that they should stop the Indra Yajna, take all the ingredients and worship Govardhana Hill. So there's a short description, the end of chapter 24, how that festival went on. And afterwards, what happened? So it says here, chapter 25, devastating rainfall in Vrindavan. When Indra understood that the sacrifice which was to be offered by the cowherd men in Vrindavan had been stopped by Krishna, he became very angry, and he vented his anger upon the inhabitants of Vrindavan, who were headed by Nanda Maharaj, although Indra knew perfectly well that Krishna was personally protecting them. Now, one commentary has described one of the reasons that Indra was very upset. As a devotee, you can relate to this. Every year they performed this yajna, and they offered him the most fantastic milk sweets. So he felt pretty bad that this year he's not getting Mother Yashoda's milk sweets. So that's one of the reasons he got really upset. See how it is, devotees, they don't get their prasad, they get really upset. So one commentary, every year they'd offer these. You can imagine the milk sweets from Nanda Maharaj's cows. And Indra I'm not getting them this year? He blew his top, and that's a symptom of a devotee. So he's a devotee, as is pointed out here. So as a director of different kinds of clouds, Indra called, and he's lost it. This is what happens when you get angry, you lose it. You can't think straight. So also this chapter is explaining a very good example. When someone gets angry, how much they can lose it. He's trying to kill the residents in Vrindavan. Now that's losing it. That's like the ultimate losing it, if you think about it. So as a director of different kinds, of course, it's Krishna Leela, and Krishna wanted to smash his false pride, but this is what happens when someone is angry and proud. Indra knew perfectly well that Krishna, as a director of different kinds of clouds, Indra called for Samvartaka. This cloud is invited when there's a need to devastate the whole cosmic manifestation. It's like now they're all concerned, well, rightly, that these hurricanes and everything are getting stronger and stronger. The different, classifications, category this, bigger and bigger. But this is a little tiny speck of dust in the universe. Can you imagine the power of Samvartaka? It's called when you want to devastate the universe. So that's who he called for. Like that. This cloud is invited when there's a need to devastate the whole cosmic manifestation. The Samvartaka was ordered by Indra to go over Vrindavan and inundate the whole area with an extensive flood. Demonically, Indra thought himself to be all-powerful Supreme Personality. When demons become very powerful, they defy the Supreme Controller, the personality of Godhead. Indra, though not a demon, was puffed up by his material position, and he wanted to challenge the Supreme Controller. He thought himself, at least for the time being, as powerful as Krishna. Indra said, just see the impudence. And when I always read this section, I think of Nila Madhava. Remember that? He did the play, he was singing. He was Indra. And there was a musical play when he was a little boy. When you see him, you can ask him if he can sing it now. But there's some lines in here about Indra, how he's going to told all the clouds to go to Vrindavan and like that. Just see the impudence of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. They're simply inhabitants of the forest, being very infatuated with their friend Krishna, who is nothing but an ordinary human being. They have dared to defy the demigods. Krishna has declared in the Bhagavad Gita that the worshippers of the demigods are not very intelligent. He has also declared that one has to give up all kinds of demigod worship and simply concentrate on Krishna consciousness. And this is one of the main reasons for this Leela, to prove that point, that Krishna's devotees exclusively worship the Lord. They don't need to worship anyone else. They offer respects, but there's no need. Krishna is invoking the anger of Indra and later on chastising him as a clear indication to his devotees that those who are engaged in Krishna consciousness have no need to worship any demigod, even if it is found that the demigod has become angry. Krishna gives his devotees all protection. They should completely depend on his mercy. So these are the lessons in the Govardhana Leela. About smashing the pride of Indra. Devotees don't have to worship anyone else, and Krishna will always protect his devotees. Indra cursed the action of the inhabitants of Vrindavan and said, by defying the authority of the demigods, the inhabitants of Vrindavan will suffer in material existence. Having neglected the sacrifice to the demigods, they cannot cross over the impediments of the ocean of material existence. Indra further declared, these cowherd men in Vrindavan have neglected my authority on the advice of this talkative boy who is known as Krishna. He is nothing but a child, and by believing this child, they have enraged me. I didn't get my maha. I just put that in there. But that's described as one of the reasons. Thus he ordered the Samvartaka cloud to go and destroy the prosperity of Vrindavan. The men of Vrindavan, said Indra, have become too puffed up. Isn't it amazing? Like they say when you point your finger at someone, you got three pointing at you. He's talking about people being proud. Well, they're very proud, but three fingers are pointing towards him, like that. Too puffed up over their material opulence, are overconfident due to the presence of their tiny friend Krishna. He is simply talkative, childish, and unaware of the complete cosmic situation. If anything could be more wrong, that's it. Although he is thinking himself very advanced in knowledge, because they have taken Krishna so seriously, they must be punished. They should be destroyed with their cows. In this way, Indra ordered the Samvartaka cloud to go to Vrindavan and inundate the place. It is indicated here that in the village or outside the towns, the inhabitants must depend on the cows for their prosperity. When the cows are destroyed, the people are destitute of all kinds of opulences. When King Indra ordered the Samvartaka and companion clouds to go to Vrindavan, the clouds were afraid of doing this mischief. But King Indra assured them, you go ahead, and I will also go riding on my elephant, accompanied by great storms, and I shall apply all my strength to punishing the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Ordered by King Indra, all the dangerous clouds appeared above Vrindavan and began to pour water incessantly with all their strength and power. There was constant lightning and thunder, blowing of severe wind, and incessant falling of rain. The rain seemed to fall like piercing sharp arrows. By pouring water as thick as pillars, without cessation, the clouds gradually filled all the lands of Vrindavan with water, and there was no visible distinction between higher and lower land. The situation was very dangerous, especially for the animals. The rainfall was accompanied by great winds, and every living creature in Vrindavan began to tremble from severe cold. Unable to find any other source of deliverance, they approached Govinda to take shelter at his lotus feet. The cows, especially, being much aggrieved from the heavy rain, bowed down their heads, and taking their calves underneath their bodies, they approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead to take shelter of his lotus feet. At that time, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan began to pray to Lord Krishna. Dear Krishna, they prayed, you are all-powerful, and you are very affectionate to your devotees. Please protect us who have been so much harassed by King Indra. Upon hearing their prayer, Krishna could understand that Indra, being bereft of his sacrificial honor, was pouring down rain that was accompanied by heavy pieces of ice and strong wind, although all this was out of season. Krishna understood that this was a deliberate exhibition of anger by Indra. He therefore concluded, "This demigod who thinks himself supreme has shown his great power, but I shall answer him according to my position, and I shall teach him that he is not autonomous in managing universal affairs. I am the Supreme Lord over all, and I shall thus take away his false prestige, which has risen from his power. The demigods are my devotees, and therefore it is not possible for them to forget my supremacy. But somehow or other, he has become puffed up with material power and is now maddened. I shall act in such a way as to relieve him of his false prestige. I shall give protection to my pure devotees in Vrindavan, who are at present completely dependent on my mercy, and whom I have taken complete shelter, completely under my protection. I must save them by my mystic power." Thinking this way, Lord Krishna immediately picked up Govardhana hill with one hand, exactly as a child picks up a mushroom from the ground. Thus he exhibited his transcendental pastime of lifting Govardhana hill. Lord Krishna then addressed his devotees, "My dear brothers, my dear father, my dear inhabitants of Vrindavan, you can now safely enter under the umbrella of Govardhana hill, which I have just lifted. Do not be afraid of the hill and think that it will fall from my hand. You have been too much afflicted from the heavy rain and strong wind, therefore I lifted this hill, which will protect you exactly like a huge umbrella. I think this is a proper arrangement to relieve you of your immediate distress. Being happy along with your animals underneath the great umbrella, being assured by Lord Krishna, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan entered underneath the great hill along with their property, animals, and they all appeared safe." The inhabitants of Vrindavan and their animals remained there for 1 week without being disturbed by hunger, thirst, or any other discomforts. It's described that he lifted the hill, but also he provided so many beautiful resting places and grass for the cows and all kinds of facilities. So it wasn't they were under some wet, rocky hill. It was all beautifully arranged for their comfort and so on. They were simply astounded to see how Krishna was holding up the mountain with his little finger of his left hand. Seeing the extraordinary mystic power of Krishna, Indra, the king of heaven, was thunderstruck and baffled in his determination. So it's described that he was holding it for 7 days, and there are more descriptions of the detailed pastimes that were happening, because this is the one time where Govardhana is very, very wonderfully made arrangement to all the different devotees together. Some see him during the night, some see him during the day, but all the different rasas were all expressed underneath that hill. And Mother Yashoda was in great anxiety how to feed Krishna because his hand was like that, so she tried her best. But this is where that Chapan Bhog comes from, 56 offerings, because it says that Mother Yashoda would feed Krishna something like 4 or 5 times a day. So if you multiply it by 7, it comes out to 56. So Krishna missed 56 meals. So then they make that up. Like in Jagannath Puri, they have the 56 offerings in different temples. That's where it comes from. It's based on this Leela. And the cowherd men kept saying, "Krishna, you must be getting tired. You must be getting tired. Please let us hold the hill." And they had their herding sticks, and they lifted them up. So Krishna, for a moment, let the hill down. And they realized, this is for just 1 second, like this is, Krishna picked it back up. Okay. So he just wanted to show them. It's pretty heavy. So there's so many different pastimes under the hill. But here it says, Indra became thunderstruck when he saw what was going on. Seeing the extraordinary mystic power of Krishna, Indra, the king of heaven, was thunderstruck and baffled in his determination. He immediately called for all the clouds and asked them to desist. When the sky became completely cleared of all clouds, there was sunrise again. The strong wind stopped. At that time, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as the lifter of Govardhana hill, Giridhari, said, "My dear cowherd men, now you can leave and take your wives, children, cows, and valuables, because everything has ended. The inundation has gone down along with the swelling waters of the river." All the men loaded their valuables on carts and slowly left with their cows and other paraphernalia. After they had cleared out everything, Lord Krishna very slowly replaced Govardhana hill in exactly the same position as it had been before. When everything was done, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan approached Krishna with feelings of love and embraced him with great ecstasy. The gopis, being naturally very affectionate to Krishna, began to offer him yogurt mixed with their tears, and they poured incessant blessings upon him, Mother Yashoda, Mother Rohini, Nanda and Balaram, who is the strongest of the strong, embraced Krishna one after another, and from spontaneous feelings of affection blessed him over and over again. In the heavens, the different demigods from different planetary systems such as Siddhaloka, Gandharvaloka, and Charnaloka also began to show their complete satisfaction. They poured showers of flowers on the surface of the earth and sounded different conch shells. There was the beating of drums, and being inspired by godly feelings, the residents of Gandharvaloka began to play on their tamboras. It pleased the Lord. After this incident, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, surrounded by his dear friends and the animals, returned to his home. As usual, the gopis began to chant the glorious pastimes of Lord Krishna with great feeling, for they were chanting from the heart. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 25th chapter of Krishna, devastating rainfall in Vrindavan. So next chapter is a wonderful Krishna, and then after that's Lord Indra, his prayers. So what I'll read next is, because of the time, this is a selection of some of the leading devotees in our movement, just a little bit reflections on this pastime and what it means, some good lessons from it. So I'll read this, then we can end. Another part we'll just have to wait for next year. So reflection on Govardhana Hill, some thoughts and meditations on Giriraj Govardhan by various contemporary Vaishnavas. So this is some Jagatarini Devi Dasi. Krishna's forgiveness to Indra. In the pastime of Krishna lifting Govardhana Hill, there are two separate groups of personalities who turn to Krishna. There was a group of the Brajvasis who were sincerely trying to do what Krishna wanted them to do, but found themselves in the midst of great difficulties that were coming from outside. Then there was Indra. He had the position and the power and the right and the might, but he had a problem with anger and envy. He had a mountain of pride. I have really benefited from seeing how Krishna dealt with Indra after Indra had acted in such a destructive way and was pushed down by the results of his foolishness. I appreciate the nuances of the forgiveness process in Indra's feelings of guilt and shame, as well as how Krishna didn't act to punish him. Rather, Krishna told him, "I only acted to protect the faithful. I didn't punish you." Indra punished himself. Seeing him turn to Krishna in times of difficulty was essential for me, and I'm sure for others, to watch Krishna's ways of dealing with us when we make a mistake. This next one is from Satchidananda Swami. 3 lessons from the Govardhana Lila. When Krishna lifted Govardhana Hill and held it up for 7 days and nights, just like an umbrella against Indra's devastating torrential rains, Krishna had at least 3 audiences and 3 lessons in mind. So, I'll ask you after class what these are, and if you answer them right, I'll give you a piece of burfi at breakfast.
3 audiences and 3 questions.
Three audiences and 3 lessons. So here they are. 1, he wanted to show the Brajbasis that if they exclusively surrendered to his instructions, they would be protected by him. Only by loving him would everything be taken care of. They did not need anyone else, not even the powerful demigods. 2, this is the next audience. To Indra, Krishna wanted to show that he, not Indra, was the Lord of the universe. And 3, to all his devotees, Krishna wanted to demonstrate for all time that he, Krishna, was their ultimate shelter and that he was sufficiently powerful to protect them from all the consequences of full surrender. Srila Rupa Goswami proclaimed a blessing for all surrendered devotees in which he invokes the protective power of the Lord. Quote, "May the left arm of Sri Krishna, whose eyes are like the petals of a lotus flower, always protect you." With his left arm, he raised Govardhana Hill as if it were a toy. We have all also been able to experience the shelter of Giriraj in our lives simply. Then it goes on. The next one is from Giriraj Swami. Like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Govardhana Hill is very important for devotees. It is said that at Govardhana Hill, just near Manasi Ganga, there is a deity named Haridev, and when one performs parikram of Govardhana Hill, one is supposed to begin with darshan of Haridev. But in the Bhagavatam, the gopis are saying that the mercy that one gets from Haridas is even greater than the mercy one gets from Haridev. Therefore, on the pretext of going to worship Haridev, they really went to get the mercy of Haridas. Haridas, Govardhana Hill. Govardhana Hill is like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, but being in the mood of the best devotee, Srimati Radharani, Lord Chaitanya is more inclined to give mercy than even Krishna himself. In the mood of his devotee, he is more merciful than in the mood of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the same applies to Govardhana Hill. Some of our acharyas have commented that these verses spoken by the gopis, particularly this verse, Haridasa Varya, were actually spoken by Srimati Radharani. The whole creation glorifies Srimati Radharani as the best servant of Krishna, and she is glorifying Govardhana Hill as the best servant of Krishna. So, this creates a transcendental competition among devotees as to who can glorify the other more, because devotees by nature are humble and they take pleasure in glorifying the Lord and the Lord's devotees. In fact, the Lord is more pleased when someone glorifies the devotees than he is by glorification of himself. This is by Niranjana Swami. Learning devotion from Giriraj. If we want to learn how to perform devotional service, then we must obtain the mercy of a devotee of the Lord. Otherwise, devotional service will always remain a great mystery. Even the gopis who are the greatest devotees of the Lord think, if we want to obtain the fulfillment of our desires, then we should worship a devotee. The gopis are the topmost devotees, yet they think in that way. They are the greatest receptacles of mercy from Lord Krishna, yet they desire to serve a devotee of Krishna so that they may be allowed to meet Krishna. Because Giriraj facilitates all the pastimes of the Lord, the gopis see him as the best devotee of the Lord. Although Giriraj is non-different from the Supreme Lord, we should want to see him as Haridasa Varya, the best servant of the Lord, specifically for the sake of developing our internal devotion. We should want to follow the principle that if we want fulfillment of our desires, then we must worship a great devotee of the Lord and render service to him. This is Indradumna Swami. Two types of worship. Some devotees worship Giriraj as Haridasa Varya, the best servant that facilitates Krishna's pastimes, and some devotees worship Giriraj as non-different from Krishna because Krishna became the hill. Either one or the other is acceptable. Actually, it says either one or both is acceptable. Radharani famously described Govardhana as Haridasa Varya, the best servant of Krishna. But Lord Chaitanya told Raghunath Das Goswami, if you worship this little stone as your Ishtadev in the mode of goodness, then one day you will directly see the son of Nanda Maharaj in the Shila. Some devotees worship Govardhan Shilas with a flute, and some worship Govardhan Shilas without a flute. It's very deep. The other day, some devotee asked me, how can Giriraj be a devotee and God at the same time? I don't understand. I said, quote, just consider the personality of Lord Chaitanya. He is God. He is a hidden incarnation of this age, but at the same time he appears as a devotee to teach us the process of devotional service. He is so much in the mood of a devotee that sometimes when his devotees would realize his divinity, they would call him Vishnu, and upon hearing this, he would cover his ears. No, that's not my mood. Don't disturb my mood. I'm Krishna in the mood of a devotee to teach others. Shivaram Swami, begging the Vaishnavas. O revered Vaishnavas, humbly I beg you to make Govardhana Hill your guru, your worshipable deity, object of meditation, only shelter and ultimate destination. Your life will then know divine perfection. Parthasarathi Das Goswami, the hill of Govardhan is a person, according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti. Govardhan is in Sakyarasa, a relationship of friendship with Lord Krishna, but he doesn't look like a person with 2 hands, 2 legs, and a head. He is in the shape of a mountain. He can hear and see our prayers, therefore we pray with tears in our eyes that one day we can see and hear what he is witnessing, which is Radha and Krishna's Leela. And the last one is from Bhakti Chaitanya Swami. I love doing Govardhan Parikram, so much so he compiled that beautiful book. Yeah, big book, you've seen that? Beautiful book on the Parikram. I love doing Govardhan Parikram. In fact, it means so much to me that usually I take at least 2 days to do it. We finished a 2-day Govardhan Parikram today, and it was just so wonderful. There's a great transcendental depth to the hill, and if one gives it enough time, then one will be able to feel a connection which goes beyond the normal worldly experience. The hill gives beautiful realizations to the devotees who go deeper. Gradually, he becomes an inseparable part of one's life. Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. So it is, as usual, I went over time, but let's open up for more comments, and there's microphones.
We can go over time.
Oh, we did?
We can go more over time.
Okay. Time does not exist in the transcendental abode.
I do have a question, but just as a piece of information, I looked up pilu, and it gives, Mahabharata gives two definitions. It's either a wild guava, or it's a small berry, a little smaller than like a cherry tomato, that's very sweet, very aromatic, and has a peppery taste. So that's one of the things Govardhana helped, you know. But what I wanted, in the first list you read, you mentioned 3 things, and I can only remember 2. In fact, now I'm having trouble remembering 2.
You're talking about the 3 different devotees and the 3 lessons?
3 different audiences,
Yeah,
but before you read from Satyanandana Swami, that you said in the very beginning, and it was a little more succinct and easy for me to wrap my mind around.
When I finished up the reading of the Prabhupada's Krishna book, about the different lessons of a curbing India's pride.
You said it at the start of the class, and then I guess you repeated it again with Satyananda, so it's the same list?
You stop.
Because one was...
One of the acharyas, one of those?
You said there were 3... You said there's 3... Okay, just...
3 audiences.
Yeah, just go back to 3 audiences.
Yeah, let's see that.
And what we learned. Because one of them was that Krishna will always protect his devotees, that you don't need to worship anybody other than Krishna, and I've forgotten what the third one was. Fool that I am.
Here we go. Boom. Well, Satyananda Swami says there's 3 audiences and 3 lessons. So the first audience was to the Brajbasis, and the lesson for them was that if they exclusively surrendered to him, they would be protected by him. And only by loving him would everything be taken care of. They don't need anyone else. The second one is Indra, and he wanted to show that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not Indra.
Okay.
And says the third one is to devotees in general, just to demonstrate for all time that Krishna, who is their ultimate shelter, and sufficiently powerful to protect them from all the consequences of full surrender. So you got Brajbasis, you got Indra, and then all the devotees of Krishna.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, it's sometimes said that the whole pastime was actually Krishna just trying to help Indra. He was the one who really needed help, right? Brajbasis are in ecstatic love. But Indra was really going off on a tangent. So the whole pastime was to bring him back in and completely crush his pride and once again reinstate him as a nice, humble servant of the Lord. Because he has a big position, and he just kind of went off like that. So bring him back in nicely. Any other questions or comments? Because there'll also be more Saturday evening, right? Isn't it the festival? Bhakti. Yes.
I'm afraid I can't give the exact source of this, but this is about the word ayam. You mentioned one reason for that, which means this.
Mm-hmm.
But what I remember reading is that they're so ecstatic, and because this is near the end of the prayers, and each one describes what he's doing and how he's doing this, and he's playing the flute. And then, so they feel at this point that they're right next to Krishna. Even though they're back home, churning butter, that they're right next to him. So this hill, they're feeling that the hill is right next to them because they're right over Krishna's shoulder. So that, because they're now walking through the Vrindavan, they're at Govardhana. So that's another interpretation of that word, ayam, which is
okay. Stand here.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, Dharmasetu Prabhu Dandavat Pranam. A very quick question. Are we allowed to extract stones from Govardhana Hill in order to worship them at home?
Take a stone, I think.
Yeah. Well, one thing is, before one begins any personal worship, they should get permission from their spiritual master. 2, the what's the word, protocol or etiquette is you cannot just go and take a stone from Govardhana Hill. In fact, there's many quotes in this book here about early days in Prabhupada telling everyone, bring them back, bring them back, bring them back. Doys would just pick them up. You have to approach a resident of Vrindavan. You have to Maharaj, do you want to tell the story?
I'll be quick.
Yeah, tell the story of our Govardhana. This answers the question. Because you were the one.
But you were answering right on target. Just because Dharma asked, the story of our Govardhana Hill is that we thought New Govardhana devotees were saying this is New Govardhana, we should have a Govardhana Shila. I was also thinking we should have a Govardhana Shila. But as you say, the etiquette is you have to ask permission, and you have to be qualified. It's not just, dust him off once a month, So I went to the Radharaman temple, and at that time, Vishwambar Goswami, he's passed away now, I think, but Vishwambar Goswami, I explained to him, I said, we'd like to have a Govardhana Shila, and he grilled me. How many Brahmins do you have? How is your Radha Krishna working? How many? He grilled me, Okay, then we're up to standard, and he asked me so many questions, and then I guess we must have passed, because then he said, all right, come tomorrow morning. So we got him a taxi. The next morning, early, we went out. No, it wasn't early. It was in the afternoon. We went out to Govardhana Hill, and with all prayers, me and now he's a sannyasi. He was Siddhanta Prabhu, Super Sid, and then later on became Bhakti Siddhanta. So he and I went out there with Vishwambar Goswami, and he chanted all these far-out mantras and this and that, and then he went up on the hill, and just as the sun was setting, he came down and he gave us our little Govardhana Shila, and he handed it to us. And as he handed us the Govardhana Hill, I swear to you, Krishna's here as a witness, all these cows just came down the parikram path, probably about 100 cows, the taxi, all of us, we were all surrounded by cows, and dust was coming up from the cows, and 3 peacocks came and landed on the hood of the taxi. So we always thought this is very auspicious, this is a good sign. So that's how we got the appearance of our Govardhana Shila.
I heard it said that you're supposed to give a weight of the Shila in gold.
We didn't do that.
In rupees. A donation. Should be. Yeah, you should give. Yeah, something like that. But yeah, you have to from a Brajbasi. That's the worshipping of Govardhana. Does that answer your question?
Oh, Prabhu, in a very excellent way. Thank you, Maharaj, for the story. Hare Krishna.
Of course.
Tamal Krishna Goswami in Houston, if anyone who's been to Houston, there's Govardhana Shila there.
Everything's big in Texas.
Big, Govardhana Shila. So it was Tamal Krishna Goswami and Bibi Govinda Swami and someone else. Anyways, Tamal Krishna Goswami, he tells his remembrance of it, and he said that for whatever reason, they didn't follow that protocol. They just, got the Shila, and it's quite amazing because, really big Shila, to the airport and, back to Houston and then Tamal Krishna Goswami was explaining how later on, him and His Holiness Skiraj Swami, they through communication with the king, they got this Govardhana Palace, and it's there still, the Bhaktivedanta Ashram there. At Govardhana. So he was saying how in a talk on Govardhana Puja one year, Tamal Krishna Goswami was saying how, Govardhana is laughing now because he knew that I took that Shila, and he's laughing now because you're supposed to give as much gold as the Shila, and he said it's costing a lot to do that Bhaktivedanta Ashram, so he knew that.
Rubble. It was a pile of rubble.
Yeah.
And they restored the whole thing. Cost them a ton of money.
Yeah. So, anyways.
That's funny. Thank you, Bobby.
So, this may be controversial, but it's the absolute truth. In 1994, I think it was, I was assigned the task of going through the Krishna book and revising it. means that we had, for that book, and no other book, we had the original tapes. So one lady listened to the tapes. This was at this time, this was in Korsnäsgård in Sweden. They were producing this revised Krishna book because he was printing in English for England then. Anyway, so she read through the whole Krishna book, and then she would listen to the tapes and read the book. And when she saw something that she thought might be how the editor or the typist or something missed something, she made a note. After that, it was at least a month she did that, maybe more. They asked me to, I flew to Sweden. I spent 6 weeks there in the summer of '94. And one of the things that she found was that Prabhupada said on the tape, and you can hear it, and this is Worshiping Govardhana Hill, chapter 24. The followers of the Krishna consciousness movement it says, the identity of Krishna in Govardhana Hill is still honored, and great devotees take rocks from Govardhana Hill and worship them exactly as they worship the deity of Krishna in the temples. And this was all in the old Krishna book. This is not revised at all. It's exactly as it's been. But the following sentence had not been in the book. Prabhupada said it. The followers of the Krishna consciousness movement may therefore collect small rocks or pebbles from Govardhana Hill and worship them at home, because this worship is as good as deity worship. And I have gotten many queries from devotees writing to me.
That doesn't counter.
No, I know, because you could say, okay.
It's sufficient. I mean, it's necessary but not sufficient. Yes, you can take stones and worship them at your house, and Prabhupada's saying, I recommend it. But that doesn't preclude or exclude the need of having permission. Just like I can drive a car, but you got to have a license.
Yes, but you got to admit that you know they can collect small stones. So when they get there, they'll find out from hopefully that you have to get permission to collect the stones. But this is a little bit of interest and.
So there's an article here called Srila Prabhupada and the Worship of Govardhan Shilas. And there's one thing here. I heard that in 1971-72, when devotees went on Parikam to Govardhan Hill, they took some Shilas. When Prabhupada heard that, he ordered them to put them all back. So Hari Saridas. So one last thing I wanted to say about Govardhan Shilas. I remember Radhanath Maharaj told the story about bringing their Govardhan for New Vrindavan. And he brought it in a box. But when he got to the airport here in the U.S., Customs, the Customs officer wanted to see what was in the box. So he opened the box, the wooden box, and there's Govardhan. Might be all decorated, not decorated. And he looks at Radhanath Maharaj, looks in the box, so all he can see is a stone. So he says, well, what's this? And Radhanath Maharaj says, that's God. And then he just closed the box and gave it to Radhanath Maharaj and let him go. He said, that's God. Hare Krishna.
Guru Prasad Maharaj tells this story. In other words, there's that verse that the Lord and his devotees are a mystery to the conditioned souls. So if you don't have the whole ontological, theological, understanding the whole thing, it can seem pretty mysterious, right? So Guru Prasad Swami, he's in Texas. He was in Houston, and they have a big, beautiful Shila in Texas, and Govardhan Shila. So he's given a whole talk. He's talking about so many things, right? He calls for questions. And a guy raises his hand. He's, you can tell he's put his Stetson hat and his boots right outside the door. He's got the cowboy hat, his shirt with the rhinestone. He's just like Texan is through and through, right? He says, sir, he said, I just got one question. Guru Prasad Maharaj said, what is that? He said, oh, what's with the smiling rock? So, it has so much deep meaning, but, you got to enter into the science, and then you can understand.
Okay, so we can end here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.